At 55, Kandi Burruss has reached a point in her career where she has nothing left to prove. She has been a Grammy-winning songwriter, a successful member of Escape, a businesswoman with multiple ventures, and a fan favorite on reality TV. Yet, even with all of her accomplishments, the entertainment world has been buzzing about her ongoing feud with Carlos King, one of the most well-known producers in the reality television industry. This is not just another spat between two celebrities. This is about power, betrayal, and the question of who controls the story in an industry where stories are everything. The drama between Kandi Burruss and Carlos King started with something that may seem small to outsiders, but means everything in Hollywood: rights to her life story. According to Kandi, Carlos King went behind her back and attempted to get those rights without her permission. This wasn't just a professional disagreement. For Kandi, it was personal. She accused him of trying to reach out to her family members in order to get the approval he needed, completely bypassing her. Imagine the shock of hearing that someone you once worked with, someone who had been part of your professional journey for years, was allegedly trying to secure the rights to your life story, your legacy, without your involvement. For Kandi, this felt like betrayal on the deepest level. To understand why this feud has shaken the entertainment industry, it helps to look back at how their paths first crossed. Kandi Burruss had already been a successful songwriter and performer before joining the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Her presence on the show elevated her profile even further, showing audiences not just her talent, but her ability to balance business and personal life under the spotlight. On the other side, Carlos King had built a name for himself as a master of reality TV. He worked as a producer on the Real Housewives of Atlanta and was often credited with shaping some of the most dramatic and memorable seasons of the show. Fans knew that when Carlos was behind the scenes, there would be storylines that kept people watching week after week. For years, Kandi and Carlos seemed to work well together. Their collaboration was strong, and it helped the Real Housewives of Atlanta become one of Bravo's most-watched franchises. Many fans thought of them as a powerful duo, with Kandi delivering the personality, storylines, and memorable moments, and Carlos shaping them into television gold. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. As often happens in entertainment, the questions of money, credit, and ownership began to strain the relationship. Kandi started to feel that Carlos was not just producing reality TV. He was crossing lines that blurred the boundary between personal and professional. The breaking point came when Kandi went public with her accusations. She revealed that Carlos had tried to steal her life story rights in order to make a project without her consent. This wasn't just about business, it was about respect. Owning the rights to someone's life story is no small matter. It means holding the power to tell, or twist, their truth. For someone like Kandi, who has worked hard to build her career and guard her reputation, this was unacceptable. She described the situation as one of the biggest betrayals she had ever experienced in the industry. When the story broke, fans expected Carlos to deny it outright or issue some kind of statement clearing things up. Instead, he chose a very different route. Rather than responding directly to Kandi, Carlos leaned into his reputation as a producer who knows how to stir drama and keep people talking. He began to throw shade, subtle, cutting comments that never mentioned Kandi by name, but were timed too perfectly to be about anyone else. For instance, whenever the topic of his fallout with Kandi came up, Carlos would laugh it off, make jokes about people in the industry being too sensitive. Future of both of their careers. The bigger picture here is about power. Kandi Burruss has longevity, credibility, and a career that stretches far beyond reality TV. She is a songwriter, a performer, and a businesswoman with multiple streams of success. Carlos King, on the other hand, has momentum, influence in the industry, and the ability to create new shows that keep his name buzzing. The question of who really holds the power is what makes this feud so fascinating. In many ways, this drama is about more than Kandi and Carlos. It highlights the constant struggle in entertainment over who controls the narrative. Is it the artist who lived the story, or the producer who knows how to package it for the audience? Kandi believes her story is hers alone to tell. Carlos seems to believe that success and influence give him the freedom to shape narratives as he sees fit. That clash of values is what keeps their feud alive. The public may never know exactly what happened behind closed doors. Did Carlos really try to steal Kandi's life story rights? Or was it a misunderstanding fueled by the cutthroat nature of the industry? What we do know is that Carlos chose not to clear the air. His shade-filled responses only deepened the suspicion and made fans question his motives. Instead of ending the controversy, he added fuel to the fire, and perhaps that's the point. Carlos is a reality TV producer. He knows better than anyone that controversy keeps people watching. By refusing to deny or confirm, by throwing just enough shade to keep people guessing, he ensured that his name stayed in the headlines. For someone in his position, being talked about, even in a negative light, can be a form of power. For Kandi, however, the stakes are different. Her brand is built on credibility, talent, and longevity. Protecting her legacy means everything, and the idea that someone might have tried to take control of her story strikes at the heart of what she's worked for. That's why this feud isn't doubled down on building his empire. He pushed harder into his production work, especially with shows like Love and Marriage, Huntsville, and teased new projects that mirrored themes Kandi had also explored. To fans watching closely, it seemed like Carlos was making a statement. I don't need you, Kandi. I can thrive on my own. At the same time, whispers began circulating in the industry. Some insiders claimed that Kandi was being cautious about who she partnered with, worried about Carlos's shadow lingering over certain projects. Others suggested that Carlos was using his influence to make sure his production stayed at the forefront, even if it meant overshadowing her work. Whether these claims were true or not, the perception alone was enough to fuel the feud further. Carlos also leaned heavily into branding himself as an authority figure in reality TV. Through his podcast and interviews, he positioned himself as someone who had the inside scoop on what really happens behind the cameras. By doing this, he reframed himself not as someone caught in a scandal, but as a gatekeeper of industry truths. It was a clever move that gave him credibility in the eyes of many fans and professionals, even while Kandi's accusations hung in the air unanswered. Meanwhile, Kandi stood firm. She made it clear that this was about more than just television. For her, this was about loyalty, respect, and protecting her legacy. She admitted she could never look at Carlos the same way again. The pain in her voice when she spoke about it made it clear that this wasn't simply a business dispute. It was personal. And for someone as guarded as Kandi, that kind of betrayal was unforgettable. Fans could feel the tension growing. Social media became a battleground, with people taking sides and speculating on who was telling the truth. Every time Carlos made a cryptic comment, it was analyzed. Every time Kandi spoke about protecting her brand, it was celebrated. The feud was no longer just about or pivot to praising his own success. He avoided addressing her allegations head-on, but his words carried the weight of dismissal. To some, this made him look strong, like he was refusing to give the drama more oxygen. To others, it looked like a classic deflection tactic. Instead of providing answers, he was making Kandi look like she was bitter or overreacting. Carlos also started using media appearances to his advantage. On podcasts, YouTube interviews, and industry panels, he would speak about his successful projects, emphasize how much he had moved on, and carefully craft the narrative that he was still on top of his game. He even went so far as to suggest, without naming names, that some people didn't like to see others win. That single line, "Some people just don't like to see others win," was instantly recognized as shade aimed at Kandi. Fans exploded on social media, dissecting every word. The perception was clear. Carlos was not apologizing, not explaining. He was fighting back with shade. Another part of Carlos's strategy was his choice of alliances. He began to spotlight and uplift people who were not exactly close to Kandi. By reposting compliments from cast members who had clashed with her in the past, Carlos seemed to be surrounding himself with voices that undermined her credibility. He also highlighted moments from past seasons of The Real Housewives of Atlanta that made her look less favorable, almost as if to remind people that Kandi wasn't always the victim. This back and forth quickly turned into a full-blown feud, with fans divided. Some sided with Kandi, insisting that she had every right to be upset. After all, it was her life story, her personal journey. Others defended Carlos, saying the entertainment industry is cutthroat and business is business. What was undeniable, though, was that the feud had gone public, and there was no turning back. Behind the scenes, things got even more complicated. Instead of retreating from the controversy, Carlos just gossip. It's a battle over something much bigger: respect, trust, and the right to tell your own truth. As this drama continues to unfold, one thing is certain. Neither Kandi nor Carlos is backing down. Both are powerful in their own ways. Both have loyal supporters, and both understand the game of entertainment. This feud has already gone beyond personal conflict. It has become a professional chess match, one that reveals just how high the stakes are when you're playing in the world of reality TV and entertainment. And as long as the questions remain unanswered, the feud between Kandi Burruss and Carlos King will continue to capture attention. Because in the end, this isn't just about who said what. It's about power, betrayal, and the battle for control in an industry where control is everything.